Hello, my name is Bertina Long, and I am a doctoral student at Aspen University. I am on today to review the dissertation by need and by name, School Leaders Fostering Environments for Grandparents Raising Grandchildren. This particular dissertation was written by Rebecca Roach in 2017. So, right now, as of in 2017, about 8 million grandparents were rearing grandkids in their homes that they were head of household, and they were mainly the grandparent in charge. About 2.7 million grandparents of the 8 million function as the main caretaker or custodial guardian to those grandchildren, meaning they didn't have a parent in the home. Some of the reasons that grandparents may be rearing their grandchildren could be due to abuse or neglect by the grandchild's parent, drugs, alcohol by the parents, or maybe the grandparent's own child is a teen or was a teen parent, and so they had to accept the responsibility of taking care of that grandchild. Mental illness is another reason why they take on the responsibility, or maybe grandchild's parent was deployed due to military. Incarceration may be a reason. A divorce of parents may be a reason, or the death of one or more of both parents could also be the reason. So this particular research topic, the research topic of this study was to create a hypothesis on how primary school principals form and cultivate helpful and beneficial interactions with grandparents rearing grandkids. So the questions that were sought to be answered in this particular study was number one, how do primary school principals make sure grandparents rearing grandchildren are involved in back and forth dialogue about the educational success of the grandkids they are raising? How do these principals make sure parents rearing grandkids are involved in decision making concerning the educational success of the grandkids they are rearing? And number three, how do these principals integrate the resources of the school, relatives, and community to help grandfamilies? Importance. The topic of this dissertation is important to today's time because numerous grandparents are facing the challenge of trying to navigate through educational systems. Grandparents are left to navigate an educational system that they haven't been a part of in a long time, therefore feasibly making it difficult for their grandkids to obtain the education that they so justly deserve. So the methodology utilized in this dissertation, this was a qualitative study, and the design utilized was ground theory. Stratus and Corbin defines a certain model to the method of qualitative evaluation as a non-mathematical method of grasping, conductive, for the objective of establishing theories and links in raw data and then layering out these into conjectural clarifying systems. So this is what they define grounded theory to be. The researcher believed this theory was the most useful method to answer the questions of the research. Since the phenomenon of grandparents rearing their grandchildren is multidimensional and difficult in nature, she felt the grounded theory approach would concentrate on the complexity of the subject because it allowed for the progression of various views and understands the effects in an effort to form a hypothesis on a trend that is ideally multi-layered. Also, the data was collected during comprehensive interviews consisting of semi-designed questions, Also, open-ended questions were generated to urge each contributor to be a part of the exchange of the ideas and permit for unplanned communication. For thoughts and views. The researcher in this particular dissertation acted as the instrument in that she was an effective listener, making use of the information obtained to form the study. Okay, so the results of this study, even though principals were aware of the issues that grandparents who are rearing their grandchildren endure, knowing this factor did not sway their role as the principal one way or the other. The way they ran the school did foster school environments where grandparents rearing grandchildren were in fact involved back and forth dialogue. However, grandparents did not have much decision making power. In addition, the school was not a place where grandparents could receive resources for the issues grandfamilies deal with on a constant basis. So, in other words, the school was not a bridge. They didn't make sure that they were linking grandfamilies, so to speak, to the different resources that they may have needed in order to navigate the educational system. So in conclusion, this dissertation brought about a conceptual framework which could function as components in the building of conjecture on how school officials create beneficial and helpful connections with grandparents who are rearing grandkids. Comparable to several qualitative researches, growing information exposed data that form the emphasis of the research. The outcomes suggest proposals for trainings in the role of grandparents rearing grandchildren, approaches for dialogue, unrestricted decision making, and linking resources to grandfamily. So this is basically my review of the dissertation and how it could in fact help in the dialogue that we have. I myself have a nonprofit where I work with grandparents raising grandchildren, and I found that this dissertation could be useful in the dialogue that we are having in how best to help grandparents who are raising grandchildren and how we can get those resources into the schools where grandparents are there maybe, or maybe they are not there, or how we can bring them into the schools and get this information out to them so that the grandchild can receive the best education possible. Thank you for listening. You guys have a great evening.